Smiley Day Geeks. Welcome back to the Geeksider Show. I'm Josh.
I'm Anna.
And in this video, we're talking about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 19. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to avoid any spoilers, skip this video and come back later because everything we say from this point forward is going to be a spoiler. So the first half of this episode was super long. I didn't make it through it. I had to go to bed. I'm back in the office now, so I have to wake up early and get ready for work. So I can't stay up late and work from home anymore. And I just couldn't hang.
I probably should have went to bed.
But the big thing for me from the first half was rudeness. And I'm sure at some point in the last several years, over the course of 2 campaigns and 18 episodes before this one of this campaign, Matt has described Ruidus. I'm sure he has.
Yeah, it's a red moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone who put together the red storms with the red moon. I haven't seen that theory anywhere. It could be out there.
I'm sure somebody's
and there
thought
are
of it,
millions of critters around the world. I'm sure somebody's come up with that theory. I've just never seen it.
Yeah, I didn't have that theory until this episode when they started really hitting on it, and I was like, oh my god, like, is it the moon? Are her dreams the moon? What?
And it's very much up in the air what it has to do, but it's definitely seems like she was born under Ruidus.
Yes,
and
she's
part of
Ruidus
this.
born.
Yeah, Ruidus born. That's it. And it seems like there's like it's a thing. Like important people throughout history have been Ruidus born or Ruidus born, and that's really interesting. But it also, one thing I think that the one thing that Matt is playing with here, and I think it would be very difficult for a DM, and so far Matt's done a really good job, is by doing something like that, saying, you know, throughout history, really important people have been Ruidus born, that almost, you run the risk of making Imogen the main character of the campaign. And that would be a really hard thing for a DM to do, or to not do.
Yeah.
But I totally think Matt is up for that challenge.
I think he's up for that challenge, and I think the fact that all of their stories seem to intertwine is what's going to be the saving grace, because as of right now, like, Imogen and Orem, I think their stories are combined. Like, they're, like, I don't know how Matt did it, but they gave him 2 completely different backstories, and he somehow merged them into one, and, like, my big theory now is that attack on the Ashari was because they were going after somebody who's Ruidus born. I don't think the attack was on Keyleth. I'm actually wondering if maybe it was Will.
Oh, because Will did die in the attack.
And that they never came back because it was successful.
That would make sense. And then the attack on the Loomis twins, obviously they were Loomis born, and that attack was a success as well. That makes complete sense. Yeah.
I had that thought last night after I turned off the episode at the break, and I go to bed now. I send a text to my server, and I was like, what if Keyleth wasn't the target? What if it was Will? What if Will's Ruidus born?
And of course, they would assume that the target was Keyleth. She's the leader. If you're going to assassinate someone, of course it's going to be the leader.
And we don't know anything about Will, so yeah, they have like a mark, and she's got these marks here. I am waiting for Orem to put together, Will had marks too. Yeah. Waiting.
And I think it was the second half of the episode where we discovered that
they're growing.
That they're growing. Yeah. And I think that's something they came up with on the spot. It definitely felt like that because Matt left it up to Laura. I was like, well, what do you think? You know, what do you want it to be? And that felt very inspired to me by Abria.
Yes, it did.
Letting the player decide. Okay, what do you think is going on here?
I've noticed in campaign 3 that Matt has taken some inspiration from playing under Abria and brought that into this game, and it's been phenomenal. Like, I really like how he's bringing in her particular style of DMing.
He's picking the elements of her style that he can incorporate into his style.
Without making his style completely different, because they do have very different styles.
Super duper different.
But it's just really cool. And I imagine it's as a player, he's like, ooh, I really liked that as a player. I'm going to give that to my players too.
The other big thing, I don't know if you noticed it or not, from the first half of the episode, is when they went shopping and they went to like the toy store. It was an antique shop's toy store. I saw Travis's face when when Matt said that name.
Check my Twitter.
Was it
Old Cat or some Old Cart, Old Gart?
Oldgar.
Oldgar.
That was it.
Yeah, Travis froze. He was like.
But like he like dipped out for a second. I'm like, ooh, that is somebody connected to Chetney.
Well, I tweeted, I said, is this person connected to Chetney or is Travis fucking with us? That's almost my exact tweet, word for word. But
I wouldn't put it past him.
I don't think so, because it got brought up later and he had the same reaction.
Yeah.
In character to the other people.
And Chetney kind of blew it off. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah. So I think that is somebody from his backstory, and that's kind of amazing, because what if they hadn't gone in there?
Right? Yeah, they could have totally bypassed that.
I mean, like, it seems like a shop that Imogen and Laudna would go in. I was super surprised Ashton went in there.
Yeah.
But wow.
And one thing Matt is doing in this campaign that I don't think he's done before, at least not in the previous two campaigns, is that this campaign definitely feels like dominoes being set up. Like all their backstories and all their personal goals and stuff, they might not be connected, but they seem to be like once one goes down, then another one goes down. Like they're all in the same general area.
Yeah, like I don't think as of yet, I don't think Ashton has anything to do with Ruidus or Ruidus-born things, but going on that journey to find the Loomis twins and track them down is leading to part of Ashton's story. And if they go to was it Eos?
Eos, yeah.
Eos, they have to go through Hellcatch Valley, which is where Ashton is from. So like,
you mentioned that's probably where they're going to run into the nobodies.
Yeah. After they met the group on the road, I was like, okay, so the group they're going to be competing with is obviously that group there. It's not going to be the nobodies, because that was my first thought when she said there was a competing group. I was like, oh fuck, it's going to be the nobodies.
Yeah.
But now after he said the Hellcatch Valley, I'm like, oh, I bet they run into them there.
My question is though, can Lord Esteros just does Eos have a skydock?
Well, and in game, is his skyship back yet?
Right. Because it could take some time to go across the ocean.
And then a couple weeks to come back, and it's only been like 10 days or less than. It's been like 5 days.
Yeah, it's been like four or five somewhere
days
in there
since Dorian has left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the timeline might just not line up. They might have to go through the Hellcatch Valley.
I bet they do. This is too early in the game for him to give them sky travel.
Yeah, but to basically fast travel. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had the whole first 5 levels, well, level 3 through 5. So we had 2 whole levels in a major city without watches, without encounters while they were sleeping and stuff, if you disregard Bertrand, because that would kind of happen.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to just not give them that, because watches are a great place for lore drops, as we saw with Laudna and Auron. We got huge lore drops from them.
And I mean, Critical Role has role play just all over the place, but the best role play happens during those watches.
Yeah. And even case in point, they set up a watch tonight because they weren't sure if the other group, the verdict. Yeah, they weren't
cool
sure.
Name.
Yeah, it is a cool name. They weren't sure if the verdict was staying there at the tavern with them, so they set up watches to make sure. And during the watch, something happened, and there was a whole roleplay moment around it. Whereas normally it might have only been Imogen and Laudna. We got the people on watch too.
And that watch got really wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, a little bit.
not so much timey-wimey, but super wibbly wobbly. Like, it was really confusing because they were in 2 different rooms. but then like the two people who went on watch were both in the same room, and then like the other room didn't do a watch at all. And I'm a little surprised Matt didn't like set them straight right there and be like, no, you both will watch just so you're in different rooms. I'm a little surprised, but he just like let it go. And I also think that's an Abria thing.
Yeah, I agree. Because it worked for the scene. It worked really well for the scene. So why stop that when you can just be like, oh, fuck it, you're all in the same room. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And then toward the end of the episode, we got the beginning of the heist. I knew once the first half went so long that they were not going to get to the heist in this episode.
Yeah, I knew that too. I was still disappointed, but it makes sense. The heist is going to be an entire episode all on its own. Mm-hmm. There's going to be like little DM challenges for them to get through, and it's going to take a lot of time.
I'm really looking forward to this because I DM, and when I run a dungeon, I don't put a lot of puzzles in mine. And I feel like this is going to have maybe some puzzles. And maybe then I, as a DM, I might be able to learn some stuff. So I'm really excited for the next episode.
I agree that I think it's going to have puzzles because Matt made it so that they couldn't just get the classic heist shit. The toy store, that antique store, that I feel like that was deliberate to make them get creative and think outside the box.
Mm-hmm. Because, well, and then the other store they went to, the other group bought most of the shit.
Yeah. And the same with the general store, like the fishing line, and like I feel like he was like, y'all think outside of the box. Like you're not getting smoke bombs and shit because you went to the telescope dude first.
Yeah.
So now you got to get creative and figure out how you're going to distract them and take them down.
And you just reminded me that the telescope guy, were terrible names. Apologies.
Yes.
They did investigate the scene of the crime where the Loomis twins were. And Orem went up in the tree and did find that gash with the goo in it, that tarry goo, and I hope that they take that to somebody to have it investigated. And
it was something he recognized, so I feel like it's something that he saw at Zephyra, and that they have already analyzed. So like I think he took it just to like. Honestly, I feel like
because he carved it out to keep it.
Yeah. I feel like Orem is very disappointed and discouraged right now.
Oh, for sure.
Was very disappointed and discouraged, and I think that was just that was part of that discouragement, was taking that piece of thing. But he said a line to Imogen. Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up because it was really good. So Orem's super discouraged and disappointed in this whole thing, but when Imogen had her nightmare, he says to her, maybe running isn't the answer. And it felt, the way he said that, it felt like it was kind of an epiphany for Orem, and that it has more meaning than just her running away from the storm, and that it applies to his situation too.
We do need to talk about the dream. For the first time, Imogen did not run to the house. Yeah. She walked into the storm, and the person, people, and Matt said it seems like it's one person or one, not consciousness, because she tried to detect thoughts.
Yeah.
But not so
one
not
silhouette.
Even one silhouette who like it's like a direct mirror of itself. So what is it?
Yeah. It does.
Is it her mom?
I don't think it is.
You don't think it's her mom?
Well, remember she said that it didn't feel right. Okay. It didn't feel the same.
And he did say it was not a familiar presence.
Yeah. It really gives off vibes like the Shadow Ninjas that killed the Loomis twins, and like that's the vibes I got from it. I don't know if that was intentional, if it's a misleading thing, but that's what I'm getting, and I'm like, oh my god, they're like hunting her in her dreams.
That's freaking Freddy Krueger shit.
Yeah, it is.
But with the smile is what got me, because he said there was no consciousness there, like no mind for her to investigate.
She couldn't see the smile. It was more of like she could feel that they were smiling at her.
But there's there's no mind there for her to dig into. Oh man, it's so weird and amazing.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see if this dream has something to do with being Ruidus born, or if this dream has something to do with something completely different. If it's linked to her being Ruidus born, but it's not because she's Ruidus born. Because so far we have no idea if anybody else Ruidus born had these dreams. There's nothing about the Loomis twins, and so far Orm hasn't said anything about Will having them. If he happens to be the target, it could have been one of the other guards. It could be Keyleth. I feel like we would have known. I don't feel like he would do Keyleth as.
I'm kind of on board with your thought that Will was the target.
Yeah, Will was the actual target.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with that. I think that's a really cool theory, and you might be onto something there.
Which, dude, that's gonna fuck up Orm when he finds out that his husband was the target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that ends up being the case, yeah, I'm looking forward to that role play.
Right.
Because nobody does tragedy better than Liam.
He's just sitting there waiting to break our hearts. He's just waiting. He gave us a little teaser with the tattoo. Yeah. And now he's like, yo, just wait.
He's just reeling us in, man. He's just reeling us in.
Yeah. Just doing his Liam shit.
All right. I don't think we have anything else for this episode, so I think that's going to be it. If we missed something, or if there was something that you think we should have mentioned that we didn't, you can let us know down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please let us know by dropping a like on it and subscribing to our channel if you haven't already.
And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.